So UFC Fight Night Jan versus Dvalishvili is going to be taking place at the theatre at Virgin Hotels, which should be a very interesting venue and location. I do wonder how it's going to look and how they're going to set it up. Like, do they have like the arena on a stage and the theatre's going down? I've looked at photos of the venue, and I don't really know how they're going to set it up. But anyway, let's get into the predictions. As always, in 48 hours time, my final picks will be out. And once again, I've got my 125% sign up bonus, as well as I will be live streaming a fight companion during the card. But let's just get straight into the predictions. Sedriques Dumas taking on Josh Fremd. I picked Sedriques Dumas to win his Dana White's Contender Series fight against Matej Pinhas, who was a very, very good kickboxer. I believe he's had a crazy record, a lot of experience, hundreds of fights of amateur kickboxing experience, I think is what Dana White said. But yeah, former glory kickboxer, and Dumas just went out and subbed him within like a minute. It was pretty crazy. I picked him to win. I didn't think he was going to win that way, but Sedriques Dumas is a very good striker. He's a very good wrestler as well. We've seen him go for a lot of takedowns against Ariane in that matchup when he won that one. He's, as I said, he's a great striker. He's got great grappler as well. Josh Fremd, he's a pretty well-rounded guy himself. He did lose to Trayshawn Gore, which was interesting. I thought he was going to win that fight, but he didn't. And then he lost to Anthony Hernandez on short notice. But Anthony Hernandez is a very, very good fighter. Underrated fighter is Anthony Hernandez. Very good fighter. I rate him very highly. I think Sedriques Dumas wins this fight. I think he wins it by knockout, maybe in the first or second round, honestly. I like Sedriques Dumas. I feel like this guy could have a very good career in the middleweight division. I think he could really have maybe like a star-making career. This guy is incredibly marketable. He's got an incredible story. He's just very marketable. He looks awesome. He's got like face tattoos. He's got tattoos all over his body, and he's got such a funny personality as well. It just seems like a relatable guy to a lot of people, but he's awesome. I like Sedriques Dumas for finish. He's a slight favorite. I think it's like -130, which is interesting. -130, -140, interesting odds. I don't mind them at all, to be honest. Next one is Raphael Assuncao versus Davey Grant. Davey Grant's a very fun striker. He likes to go to war. It's interesting that this fight isn't actually going to be on UFC 286 in London. That would have made a little bit more sense for Davey Grant, but it should still be a very fun fight. I mean, Davey Grant, he has fun fights. He's always in fun fights. You know, he went to war with Lewis Smolka. He went to war with Adrian Yanez and arguably won the fight. He fought Marlon Vera and lost that one. He's also beaten a couple of very good guys in his career. Same thing as Raphael Assuncao though, but Raphael Assuncao's pretty old. He's almost 41 years old, but so is Davey Grant. You know, Davey Grant's 37. But at the end of the day, what Davey Grant is probably going to make this fight is a striking war. I think Assuncao's going to want to take it to the mat, but Davey Grant, I think, will keep it on the feet and turn it into a war. And when these guys are battling it out, when they're exchanging, the guy that's going to be getting the better part of the exchanges on the feet will be Davey Grant, in my opinion. So I've got Davey Grant to win this matchup. Maybe by a late finish. I don't think he's going to like knock out Assuncao, but I think it's going to be like an accumulation of damage that either gets Davey Grant a decision or like a late, maybe third round finish, something like that. He is a slight favourite, -160 in the matchup. The next one we move on is Carlston Harris taking on Abubakar Nurmagomedov. We've seen Carlston Harris take on actually a very similar style of fighter in, not Christian Aguilera, and Saigid Izagakmaev, who was 17-1 at the time, was actually a training partner of Khabib Nurmagomedov. This was kind of when Khabib retired, and it was like Dana White's looking for a fight sort of situation with Khabib in the corner as well. Imber Kasanganay beat him. He lost to Shavkat Rakhmonov, but I mean, that's a pretty cool fight to have, you know what I mean? And I think he's going to beat Abubakar Nurmagomedov by submission, dude. Carlston Harris is a very good grappler, but he's also a very good striker. He's an older guy, but he's just very well-rounded and very talented, very much a finisher as well himself. Abubakar, good wrestler, good striker, slows down a little bit. He beat Gazioma Gaziev in a somewhat close fight. Gazioma Gaziev was going for a lot of submissions in that matchup, and I thought in that fight, man, I thought maybe Gazioma Gaziev had a lot of potential. If he could maybe make some improvements, then they cut him from the UFC, so it's a weird win for Abubakar to have. But I feel like Carlston Harris is just a better version of Gazioma Gaziev, and more well-rounded too. So I think Carlston Harris should win. He's -150 in the matchup. I've got him by submission, and so does most of Tapology. Next one is Tony Gravely taking on Victor Henry. It's rough though. Do we trust Victor Henry in this matchup? I mean, we trusted him to beat Raphael Assuncao when he didn't do it. He looked pretty weird in that fight, I'll be honest. But he fought Leone Barcelos on short notice and just went out there and dominated him. Very confusing fighter. Very confusing fighter. Hard to get a good read on. Tony Gravely's somewhat similar. Very good wrestler. I was going to say he's an older guy, but he's not. He's actually only 31 years old. He's just very, very experienced. especially for this weight class. This is his 32nd pro fight, and this will be Victor Henry's 29th pro fight. These guys are very experienced, especially for bantamweight. But in the matchup, I do have Victor Henry. I'm trusting him one more time. I think he beats Gravely on the feet, so I'm going to trust him. I think he's going to keep the fight on the feet, and he should be able to win it on the feet. He's a minus 150 favourite, which is interesting. I wouldn't be too surprised if we see people picking Gravely. This next fight, I thought that I was going to have an underdog pick, because if you actually look at the Tapology votes, Tyson is 75% picks. And he's not the favourite. Bruno Silva is the favourite, and Bruno Silva is my pick. I thought I was going to have a pretty crafty underdog in this one here. Bruno Silva hasn't fought for a very long time, almost 2 years. But Bruno Silva is a very main training partner of Henry Cejudo. So you know he's going to have good wrestling, and he's got good grappling himself. He's just recently been knocking people out on the feet, which is interesting. But I think he is going to look to take down Tyson Nam, which would be a pretty smart move in my opinion, because Tyson Nam is pretty dangerous on the feet. He just knocked out Ode Osborne in the first round. But I think Bruno Silva is going to look to use that wrestling and grappling in the matchup, and they should win that way. Mario Bautista versus Guido Cannetti is the next fight. Very wide odds in this one, in my opinion. Mario Bautista is like minus 900 on some sports books, minus 800 on others. A little bit wide for my liking, dude, because Guido Cannetti, although he's 43 years old for bantamweight, he's still live and dangerous, man. Like, he was beating up Randy Costa a little bit on the feet before he submitted him. Knocked out Chris Moutinho, something that Sean O'Malley couldn't do, which is crazy in hindsight, huh? Mario Bautista, he has gone on a good win streak, not really over the best competition in the world. Jay Perrin on short notice. Brian Callagher, who's an older guy. And Benito Lopez, who just looked like a shell of himself in the return, to be honest. But I think that Mario Bautista should be able to get Guido Cannetti to the mat where he's not that dangerous and submit him. I really want to see Guido Cannetti take on Raul Rosas Jr. because Guido Cannetti would be like 43 and Raul Rosas Jr. would be 18. That would be like the biggest age difference in fights in UFC history, I would say. I think that would be a great option. But Mario Bautista by submission in like the second round, I think. JJ Aldrich taking on Ariane Lipski. JJ Aldrich isn't like amazing at one thing, but what she is she's good at everything. She's a very well-rounded fighter, good striker, good grappler as well. I mean, she was beating Erin Blanchfield up on the feet in moments, and she defended a couple of takedowns as well, which is a good look because Erin Blanchfield just beat Jessica Andrade, and on the feet didn't look lost whatsoever. In fact, it was quite competitive on the feet. Before that, she did beat Gillian Robertson, which is a good win. Vanessa Demopoulos is an okay win. Courtney Casey, that's a close fight, but when you do watch it, I do think JJ Aldrich won. Ariane Lipski, she's a good striker. I don't think she's too good of a grappler. I know she does have, I think she's got a couple of submissions in her career. She does. She submitted Luana Carolina, but Luana Carolina is only a striker herself. I've got JJ Aldrich by decision. She should be able to put it all together. The striking, the grappling, and the wrestling that she does have in her arsenal. She's about a minus 250 favourite, minus 220 favourite or so. Next one is Lukasz Brzeski versus Carl Williams. This is a very hard fight to predict. Very hard fight to give you a good read on. Very hard fight to give you a good prediction, in my opinion. Carl Williams is a former light heavyweight. He fought actually on short notice on Dana White's Contender Series against Jimmy Lawson at heavyweight. Beats him in the wrestling, and I believe Jimmy Lawson was like a D1 Division 1 wrestler himself, which was good, but Jimmy Lawson had 90 seconds of cardio. I'm not even lying, dude. Watch that fight. Jimmy Lawson gassed out after the first 90 seconds. It was incredible. Lukasz Brzeski got robbed against Martin Boudet, who's a fighter who I rate very highly, and I think is actually going to go on to do good things. So I've got Brzeski. He doesn't look the same now that he's under USADA because he did pop against Dylan Potter when he beat Dylan Potter. He did pop, but he still got his debut and he lost. He didn't look the same, wasn't in the same shape as he was, but I think Brzeski... Oh, dude, this is a tough fight, man. There's going to be a pick change in this one, I feel like it. I'm going with Brzeski, though. I think he's the better striker. He's a dangerous striker. He's quite good everywhere. He's a very slight underdog as well in the matchup. Carl Williams is a good wrestler, but as I said, he's actually a light heavyweight that's going to be fighting at heavyweight now. I think it's a good move, though, for Williams. I think he's got a higher ceiling at heavyweight than light heavyweight. I'm picking Brzeski. So is everyone else. I think everyone knows he was robbed against Martin Boudet, who's a very good fighter himself, in my opinion. Nikita Krylov versus Ryan Spann's been rebooked. I am picking Krylov. I think Krylov is more well-rounded. I think Krylov has better cardio, but My concern is Krylov was sick 2 weeks ago. Has he recovered fully from the sickness? Will that sickness impact his cardio in this fight? You know what I mean? Like, is he 100%? Is he really 100%? You know what I mean? But I do think Nikita Krylov should be able to get it done in this matchup. I think he should be able to beat Ryan Spann. I think he's going to be more well-rounded than Spann. I know Spann does have submissions, but for the most part, he's a very powerful dude on the feet. Krylov's a good wrestler. He's got good ground and pounds. He's a good striker. He's just an entertaining fighter. I like Krylov. He's actually one of my favorite fighters on the roster. He's a hard guy to get a good read on, though. I feel like everyone has a pretty bad read on Nikita Krylov, including myself. But I do think that he should be able to get it done over Ryan Spann. I'm thinking like second or third round finish in this matchup. There's no odds on best fight odds on the card, but I think Krylov is probably still just a very slight favorite like he was. Ricardo Ramos versus Austin Lingo. This is a pretty hard fight to predict for me. I think Ricardo Ramos is like minus 300 on the odds, which I feel like might be a little bit wide because I don't have that much confidence in him winning. I am picking him to win. He has been doing a lot of grappling tournaments over at Submission Circus, but he lost his survivor Takubov. Unfortunately, that loss hasn't aged all that well, really. He did beat Danny Chavez in the first minute and a half, which is cool. He's got the win over Bill Algeo as well, which is quite good. He's a very good grappler for the most part, though. I feel like that's what he's going to try and do, use that grappling base. He's been in a lot of grappling tournaments as well recently. I've got him to win. Am I that confident in him winning? Not really. Austin Lingo's a pretty good striker. He does have a couple KOs on his record, including his name at Lights Out, but yeah, he just hasn't been able to get that KO in the UFC yet, huh? I mean, he spent his whole career finishing guys in the first minute, and now that he's gotten to the UFC, he's been a lot more competitive. So it's interesting. I think Ramos is gonna sub him though. I don't know, man. This is a weird fight. As I said, I'm not that confident in this pick. I've got another underdog though. I am picking Anton Turkalj to beat Vitor Petrino. Vitor Petrino is one of those guys that is an incredible striker, incredibly powerful on the feet. But the thing about Vitor Petrino, man, is he isn't that good at grappling. You know what I mean? Like, he's not that incredible off his back. And I think that's what Anton Turkalj is going to do, man. I think Turkalj is going to take him down and put him on his back. I think he's going to look to use that wrestling, man, like he did on his Dana White's Contender Series fight, which people seem to hate for some reason. It's a little bit of a weird one. I don't know why people hate him so much for that. But he took down Akashio dos Santos 11 times in the 15-minute fight, and then he took on Jailton Almeida on short notice at a catch weight of like 220 pounds, dude. Like, that was crazy. Who takes on Jailton Almeida on short notice? And he did defend a lot of submission attempts and a lot of what Jailton Almeida was trying to do in that matchup as well, with a very big size disadvantage. So, well, you know he's got good grappling. You know he's got good defensive grappling as well. He's going to be going for takedowns on Vitor Petrino. I don't think he's going to mess around on the feet. He's the underdog in the matchup too. He is about plus 120, plus 115 or so. I don't think Anton Turkalj is going to play the game of striking with Vitor Petrino. We know how dangerous Vitor Petrino is. I think Anton Turkalj knows how dangerous Vitor Petrino is as well. I think he's going to take him down and submit Vitor Petrino. So I've got Anton Turkalj by taking down Vitor Petrino and looking to do some grappling. So Nurmagomedov versus Jonathan Martinez, kind of a similar situation as the last fight, really. Jonathan Martinez, great striker, Muay Thai striker, just beat Cub Swanson, which was like his biggest win of his career, really. But now, dude, he's taking on Said Nurmagomedov, who was losing to Said Yokub Kakramonov, and I did pick Said Yokub Kakramonov in that matchup. He was getting out-wrestled by Said Yokub, but it was still somewhat competitive in the grappling. I do believe that Said Nurmagomedov should be able to finish Jonathan Martinez by submission in this one. I know Said Nurmagomedov is an incredible striker himself, but he's also a good wrestler and grappler, and I think he's the better wrestler and grappler in the matchup. And I just think he's going to look to use that wrestling and grappling in the matchup against Jonathan Martinez. Martinez, if he keeps it on the feet, he's probably got a very good chance of winning because he's a very good Muay Thai style striker. But Said Nurmagomedov is also a very good striker himself. But I do believe that he should be able to get the finish by submission over Jonathan Martinez in this matchup. The big co-main event of the evening is Alexander Volkov versus Alexandr Romanov. And it's a weird situation because Alexandr Romanov is getting a very big step up in the rankings, coming off a loss to Marcin Tybura. In my opinion, that should have been a draw, though, because I think you can give Romanov a 10-8 in the first round, and then Tybura won the last two. Weird decision, but at the end of the day, like, he's dominating guys, but he's not really dominating the best guys. Like Jared Vandeera, he dominated. Chase Sherman, he dominated, and then he gassed out to Marcin Tybura, but he was dominating him as well. I'm not confident in this pick whatsoever, and and it might be a little bit ironic because if Alexander Romanov was given the decision and was 17-0, I probably would pick him to beat Volkov. But I'm picking Alexander Volkov to beat Alexander Romanov, dude. Alexander Romanov just hasn't fought this level of competition. Volkov's been there, done that. This is his 46th pro fight. Romanov, dude, he's built his whole career by being protected by the UFC. Like, he made his debut in the UFC against Roque Martinez, who just didn't belong, and then he beat Marcos Rogério de Lima, and then he won over Juan Espino, which Juan Espino should have won, and then he beat Jared Vandeera, and then short notice Chase Sherman. Like, crazy to me, dude. He just hasn't fought the best guys at all. He hasn't been that great of guys. He's been very protected in his whole UFC career. Now he's getting Alexander Volkov, who's a big guy, the much better striker, much better striker than Romanov. He's beaten Marcin Tybura himself. Romanov is such a good wrestler and grappler, dude, but I just think Alexander Volkov's going to beat him up on the feet for it to a decision. Here it is, Volkov. So give me Volkov. Am I that confident? No, not at all. He's actually the underdog, which is interesting, but yeah, dude, just Romanov hasn't fought this level of competition. Next one is Petr Yan versus Merab Dvalishvili. I'm picking Petr Yan to win this one here. I think Petr Yan is one of the best strikers in the UFC. And he does have very good wrestling and grappling himself. And I think he's going to have good enough defensive wrestling and grappling to defend against Merab Dvalishvili. And the thing is, with Merab Dvalishvili, dude, I don't really want Merab to win, and the only reason I don't really want him to win is because if he beats Petr Yan, he won't fight Aljamain Sterling. So, like, what do you do with him? You know what I mean? Like, he just defeats all of the contenders, so Aljamain Sterling doesn't have to fight him. Like, it's such a weird situation, dude. Like, honestly, dude, if my best mate was the champion of the world, and my friend had the dream of becoming the champion, they've got going on, it's just so weird. But down attempts that I think striker than Merab, who's very hittable on the feet as well. I mean, he beat Cody Stamann, but it's Cody Stamann. Like, he's not really beating the best guys in the world. He did beat Aldo in a very close fight, which some people did score for Aldo just based on damage, because Merab did absolutely nothing. Like, he might even lose the second round, but come third, fourth round, I know Merab's gas tank isn't to figure him out on the feet early, because Merab's not that good grappler, but he's not that great of a striker. And I think what Petr Yan's going to do, he's going to figure him out on the feet early, and he's going to pick him apart in the third and fourth rounds and maybe get a finish in that fourth or fifth rounds. In my opinion, I think we're going to see Yan get a very late finish, and he's a minus 220 favourite here. Y'all must have forgot who Yan is, huh? No, I'm just kidding, but yeah, dude, he beat Corey Sandhagen in that incredible striking fight only a year ago, and then he lost to Aljamain Sterling. I think he did lose to Aljamain Sterling. I do think Sterling won the first 3 rounds because Yan did nothing in the first at all. And then he lost to Sean O'Malley. Honestly, he should have been given that decision, but the decision isn't that bad. Like, it's not terrible, you know what I mean? It is a weird decision. I do think Yan should have got it, but it's not that bad of a decision, you know what I mean? A lot of people think that Petr Yan should have got both those decisions, but I do respectfully disagree, especially with the Sterling one. I think Sterling won that fight. As someone that's not even the biggest Sterling fan either, to be honest. And then Sean O'Malley, he should have got that decision, in my opinion. But it is what it is, dude. We got to move on. It wasn't that bad of a decision either, really, at the end of the day. But I do think Petr Yan wins this fight over Dvalishvili. He probably might have to fight one more time before he gets a title shot. Maybe we see him rematch O'Malley since Cejudo's getting the title shot, which is interesting. So, yeah. Yeah, got Petr Yan by a very late finish, like fourth or fifth round TKO. Honestly, I think he's going to beat Petr Yan fourth or fifth. Yeah, that's my picks, man. Let me know what you think. Yeah, leave a comment if you like the video. If you like the video, like the video. If you made it this far. I do apologize, I'm very tired. It's quite late at night. I didn't get a lot of sleep last night, and I did just do a 9-hour live stream for UFC 25. So I'll see you in the next one. Thank you guys so much for watching.